very good evening to everybody and respected chairperson. So without any delay, I am going to start my presentation. So it's all about premature ovarian insufficiency, and the topic is allotted to me is etiology and diagnosis. So as we know that the ovaries are to be considered as the biological clock for a woman, and very sometimes what happens, this biological clock accelerates unexpectedly, and that we called as premature ovarian insufficiency. So our esteemed speakers has already described very well. Okay, ma'am. Thank you. So what is a POI? It is basically a clinical condition that is characterized by loss of ovarian function in women before age of 40, and it represents a state of hypergonadotrophic hypogonadism with profound implications for reproductive, endocrine and overall women's health. So what this condition to be called? So how does the nomenclature evaluates over the time? So talking about the historical origin, Mr. Fuller Albright was the first who described the condition as primary ovarian insufficiency in 1942. But what happens in Europe, there was some concern that in Europe primary and secondary were widely used to classify amenorrhea in relation to menarche. So primary ovarian insufficiency caused confusion as it was not synonymous with the primary amenorrhea. So as you all know, current terminology is very well accepted as primary ovarian insufficiency. This is the graphical shift that we have seen over the years. So why this shift has been seen? Because the fluctuating nature of the hormones level, it is characterized by the intermittent, unpredictable ovarian activity rather than the complete cessation. Second one is the psychological impact, that the term failure that carries a negative connotations over the woman's overall psychological health. And the residual functions, that is the 5 to 10% of women with POI may still conceive spontaneously with the POI. So talking about the prevalence of POI, this is the global scenario with the ethnical and regional variations have been seen. 1 in 100 women by the age of 40 and 1 in 1,000 women by the age of 30 and 1 in every 10,000 women by the age of 20 has reported with this condition. So our previous speakers have been briefly described the various risk factors, so I am not going into detail of this. The genetic factors, chemical exposures are there related with these POI. Of course, family history, ethnic variations and some early life factors like maternal smoking, etc. are related with this POI. Reproductive factors like nulliparity, short cycles, BMI less than 18.5, smoking, somewhat alcohol intake and some infections like mumps, HIV, roster, tuberculosis are related to this POI, and some medical conditions like PCOS, galactosemia, autoimmune disease, thyroid disorders are associated with this. Coming to the etiological part, so broadly the POI is being classified as iatrogenic and non-iatrogenic. Iatrogenic POI is related with the chemotherapy being used, like alkyl agent are the being most gonadotoxic, pelvic radiotherapy being used, and some surgeries often being performed like for endometriosis, ovarian torsion, for any large cyst removal can cause the iatrogenic POI. We can see this, there is a dramatic increase in iatrogenic POI these days, as the studies seen have been described it like 7.6 to 34.5% rise of this iatrogenic cause of POI. Coming to the genetic causes, some chromosomal anomalies like Turner syndrome, mosaicism and triple X syndrome has been very well described, the cause of POI. Some other syndromes like Bloom syndrome, Fanconi anemias, Parallel syndrome are being associated with this condition. Structural anomalies, and very important is FMR1 gene premutation. This gene mutation is being considered as most common single gene cause of POI, and it accounts for 6% of all POI causes. Then autoimmune causes. Autoimmune causes further divided as with adrenal autoimmunity, with non-adrenal autoimmunity, or with isolated idiopathic POI. So addiction disease is being very common associated with the POI, and other autoimmune conditions like Hashimoto's, Graves, celiac disease, SLE, type 1 diabetes, and autoimmune polyendocrine disorders are being causative factor of this POI. Coming to the diagnosis of POI, how this condition to be diagnosed. So these are the general symptoms with which the patients being presented to us, like mood swings, insomnia, sexual problems, fatigue, hot flashes, hair loss, dryness, and many more symptoms. So this is the ASHRAE's diagnostic algorithm. The age of the woman should be less than 40 years for the diagnosis. There should be some menstrual disturbance in the form of oligomenoria or amenorrhea for more than 4 months, and a biochemical confirmation with an elevated FSH level of more than 25 international unit. So this is the algorithm of the diagnosis of POI, which ASHRAE has been very beautifully described. With the clinical presentation, if the woman is less than 40 years, so if the bilateral oophorectomy is there, then already the diagnosis of the POI has been confirmed. So no further testing is required. And we have to ask, if it is not, then we have to ask about the menstrual disturbances, if the patient is having any such type of symptoms. And we should keep in mind that the symptoms of estrogen deficiency could be there or could not be there. And signs and symptoms of potential cause of POI such as Turner syndrome or any autoimmune disorder should be kept in the mind. So after the clinical scenario is overall made out, then we will further go for the investigation. So first of all, we have to rule out the pregnancy. Then further we will go for serum FSH level, and FSH testing for the diagnosis of POI does not have to be timed for any specific day of the menstrual cycle. And we should keep in the mind that some hormonal therapy can potentially lower the FSH concentration and may need to stop before the diagnosis of POI, like some OCPs or any hormonal pills if patient is taking. So FSH levels more than 25 units plus oligo or amenorrhea confirm the diagnosis. Then step 3, what to be done if POI is not confirmed on the first test? Then repeat FSH can be done after 4 to 6 weeks if the diagnosis is uncertain. And as our chairperson already told, that AMS testing is not useful to confirm the POI, but it is can be done if the results are inconclusive. But it should be interpreted with the clinical scenario of the patient. And it could be required for the need of any fertility preservation further. So after making a diagnosis, investigating the cause is equally important. That is post-diagnostics protocol. So whatever the cause is to be need to figure out, like it is whether iatrogenic cause or genetic track or any autoimmune track is there. This is the algorithm for ruling out the cause of the POI. Like if the patient is having any history of bilateral oophorectomy, then diagnosis of iatrogenic POI is confirmed. And even if the patient is having previous chemotherapy or radiotherapy or any BSO has been done, then again the diagnosis of iatrogenic cause has been established. And if it is not there, then we should then go for the genetic test after counseling. Genetic test for chromosomal analysis and the gene testing should be done. If this comes abnormal, then the diagnosis of POI with the genetic cause has been established. But if again these are normal, then we should go to the autoimmune testing for the various autoimmune antibodies. And if this is confirms, it is positive, then it confirms the diagnosis of POI with the autoimmune causes. And again, if these are normal, then diagnosis of idiopathic POI will be established. So last but not the least, before diagnosis, delivering the diagnosis, the SPIKES protocol as per the ASHRAE guidelines need to be followed. Like S stands for settings, ensure the privacy of the patients, avoid any interruptions. P for perception, assess the patient's current understanding regarding the conditions. I stands for invitation, ask how much they want to know. Then K stands for knowledge, providing the provide any warning and don't use any complex terms in front of the patient. E stands for empathy. We should validate the emotions of the patient and acknowledge any difficulty if patient is having. Then S stands for strategy, that is to summarize the next steps and to provide the supports the patient required. So thank you for the patient learning. Thank you, Chairperson.